Hello and welcome to the JB&M Sports Fanatic channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me here for this video. And so we're here to talk about the Brian Flores situation. You know, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, who was there for 3 seasons. And in 2 of those 3 seasons, he had a winning season. In 2020, he led the Dolphins to 10-6, which was twice as many wins they had the previous season, going from 5 games to 10. And then in 2021, last year, had 9 wins and also swept the New England Patriots, which was something that when he was hired, they wanted for him to come in there and be able to do stuff like that. But obviously, he's suing 3 specific NFL teams and the NFL. You know, when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, he says that during his first year there back in 2019, you know, they were offering $100,000 for each loss that they had. They wanted the roster to be young. They wanted to just go out there and stock up on some draft picks there, which, I mean, if that turns out to be the case right there, then that is huge because, I mean, one, that means you hired a coach and set him up to fail. You know, anybody that brings in a coach under the scenario that, oh, you know, like we want you to go out there and lose and stuff. I mean, no, that's not okay because we have guys that are like literally going out there, risking their bodies, their health and all like that. And some of these guys, they're getting older, you know, they want to go out there and win. And not only that, the fans deserve better than to just go out there and then just be served, you know, a losing team when they can go out there and actually try to go out there and compete. You know, so you have that scenario right there. When it comes to the Broncos, you know, his beef with the Broncos, that tends to be along the line of saying that the interview is basically a sham, you know, showing up late to the interview. John Elway denies this, and so we don't know either way. But if that is the case, you know, that's disrespectful right there. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of teams out there that's just trying to get that checkbox. It's like, oh, we got to bring in a minority. Okay, we'll bring them in. But, I mean, even then, they do bring in some quality, you know, some very good quality coaches and stuff. It's just that we've only got one right now minority head coach, well, one black head coach right now. Considering how many athletes we have that's play this game right now that's black, you would think that there's a lot more. But what's happening with those guys once they go ahead and they you know, finish up playing? You know, we've got I just saw Kevin O'Connell, you know, the offensive coordinator for the Rams, and I'm excited for him. You know, former Patriots. You know, I love the Patriots and all like that. But I know that he was basically like a 3rd-string quarterback for what, maybe 1 season or something like that when we drafted him. It didn't work out that way, but, you know, he's, you know, going to become a head coach of the Minnesota Vikings after the Super Bowl, so they can finalize that, which is great for him. You know, and I think of guys that, you know, came off the bench. Another former backup, you know, behind Tom Brady was, you know, Cliff Kingsbury, you know, guys like that are getting the job offers and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, that's great, you know, because, I mean, obviously they know the game. They're a part of the game. That stuff makes sense right there, you know. But then you look out there and you're like, okay, so what's happening with a lot of these, you know, black athletes once they retire? Why aren't they getting head coaching opportunities, or what kind of coaching opportunities are they getting? You know, so I think of a guy like, first person that comes to mind in terms of a former athlete turned coach. You know, obviously we saw some success, you know, with a guy like Herm Edwards. You know, I remember when he, you know, after his time with the Jets, you know, he went to the Chiefs. He was dealt a pretty bad roster, which is the case for most of these coaches when they get hired. You know, they have a pretty awful roster to work with. I mean, I'm trying to think of teams. A team that comes to mind that, you know, like, for example, think of Mike Tomlin, you know, his situation with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He took over the Steelers. You know, they're always competing for the playoffs. And his time there, he's had success there because the roster, you know, he wasn't dealt a bad roster. And he's done a great job of continuing to build this team to have success moving forward. And so you look at a guy like, you know, Cully last year for the Houston Texans. And so, yeah, the Texans team, I mean, Deshaun Watson didn't play last year, so that didn't help at all. And so we knew it was going to be a struggle. But after year 1, he's been let go. Now, we've heard the reasonings, you know, or at least some, you know, reasoning behind that. You know, he didn't want to move on from some of his staff members. I get that. But it does seem like with some of these minorities, they do want, if they're going to hire you, you're going to end up with a bad roster, and they want it done on their terms, in terms of they want to pair you with someone that's, you know, rather than get you someone that's going to complement what you do well, they want you to fit a certain system. And so for some coaches, that doesn't work out too well. You know, but there are a lot of good coaches. You know, I was really hoping that Byron Leftwich was going to land a job and stuff like that. Now, some of these hires, though, I will say, you know, like, I completely, you know, understand where they're coming from, and I get it. Like for the Broncos, you know, bringing in Packers offensive coordinator there, I think that's a great move right there. So, you know, I understand that. And even for the Giants, I mean, you know, Brian DeBoer, that's not bad at all. I think that's a good move for them. It's just simply the process and how can we get more minorities in head coaching role when we know that the ratio should definitely be, I feel, a lot more even than what it is right now. Definitely, we can't just have just one, black head coach. That cannot be the case. So it's stuff like that that raises the question, well, what can we do differently? Because the NFL, they tried with the Rooney Rule, and we'll just go ahead and click real quick on what the son of the late Dan Rooney had to say, longtime Steelers chairman, with the whole rule, as it says right there, the rule to boost diversity in upper ranks is not, what my father intended it to be, is what he said. And so, and I get that, the rule was adopted back in, I think, '03, known as the Rooney Rule there. And so, you think of that rule there, and so it does require teams to bring in, black coaches there, or minority coaches. And when it comes to just how things have been playing out lately, though, it's just become a checkbox at this point. So what can we do to really change that moving forward? And I think there's two ways to go about it. One is in ownership. We need people out there that, like minorities out there, that have a lot of money that can take on an NFL franchise and eventually just start getting just a segment in there. Honestly, I feel like that could definitely go a long way. Because some of the things that's being said, it's like we want a guy that comes in and fits our culture. You got to be very careful when you thought that word culture, because what exactly are you referring to when it comes to culture and all like that? Why is it that a guy like Eric Bieniemy is said to, by some people to not interview well? Is it more of a he doesn't fit your culture type of thing? Well, what exactly does that mean? Because last time I checked, I think of a team like, the Washington football team, we find out that there's some stuff going on, with their culture. They need to make changes and all like that, back when we first found out about that. Obviously, they've made some changes since then, but just using them as an example, so sometimes we know that the culture itself might actually be the problem. So it's okay to mix it up and things of that sort. So that's just an idea right there. Like I do feel that teams should have the right to choose the guy that they feel is right to lead them, obviously. But we got to add some more diversity there, because there's definitely a guy like Brian Flores. He's one heck of a coach. I know he did not lead this Dolphins team to the playoffs there, but what he did in his time there, I feel like he was laying the foundation for years to come. He took a roster that was really bad in 2020 and made them go 10-6. So I think he's one heck of a coach. And the fact that he doesn't have a job right now and that he has to potentially sacrifice his odds to become a head coach, that speaks volumes in terms of what's going on. You think of, I believe Hugh Jackson, he wants to potentially join in on that lawsuit as well. And so we'll see how many other coaches, come forward. But certainly something's going on here. It's just not a topic that's easy to discuss. Definitely understand that. Another thing that I feel could really help some of these minority coaches and stuff like that, because it's easy to point to the records and say, oh, well, they're not winning and stuff like that. And it's, as I mentioned before, it's really because the jobs they're being offered, they're taking over teams that are basically, we already know heading into the season, like this is going to be a 5-win or less type of team situation. And then once the team finally starts building, like get those core draft picks out the way, then they're fired. And then most of them never get another opportunity to be a head coach again. And so, yeah, but it would definitely help if some of these big time players and stuff like that started going to actually play for some of these minority coaches and help them out, especially when the rosters, right off the bat isn't good. So if more of them took options like that, I'm thinking about the college game, what's going on down there at Jackson State. They bring in a guy like Deion Sanders to come there and lead that football team, in which he's doing a fantastic job in recruiting, because he's selling these guys and they're buying in, like they understand they can go and play for some of the bigger schools traditionally out there, but they want to see they want to see minorities go out there and succeed. And so Deion Sanders, he's doing a fantastic job of that. And so when you look at what he's doing and what that means for the game of college football moving forward, that means a lot right there. You see that happening in the college sports. So maybe at some point, if we start seeing stuff like that in the NFL and help some of these coaches out, maybe that's another way that things will be balanced. But ultimately, I think it starts at the top. Like there's got to be, if you want more diversity up under that, then perhaps more diversity at the top is the way to go. That's my opinion about it. But definitely, support, Brian Flores there, as well as also supporting the teams in terms of just being able to bring in the guy that they feel is the best candidate there. But certainly a guy like Brian Flores, he definitely should have gotten a head coach job there. Him, Byron Leftwich, strong candidate, Eric Bieniemy for 2 years now. Where does it stop at some point? But one black coach right now, that's that's definitely not going to cut it right now. But that's my, that's some of the thoughts right there, in terms of just where we are right now in the situation. Obviously, a lot of these are allegations, so I will go ahead and throw that out there, because we don't, I wasn't there, in person to say that, but we know something's going on right now. I mean, there's just no way. There's definitely a lot more talented, coaches out there, and just looking at the ratio in terms of just where we are right now in the league, in terms of just African American players that are out there, it's just mind-boggling right now. But to each his own opinion, and so I definitely respect that from both sides there. I certainly get it, from a fan perspective. You want the best guy there regardless. And some of these hires, like I said, some of these hires, I felt like they were some good hires. It's just I feel like there's definitely some things that can be changed. That is for sure. But of course, want to hear your thoughts. I know this is one of those controversial type of subjects, to discuss. But hey, definitely let me know your thoughts there. And just remember to be respectful, not just to me here, but also to other people that will be commenting as well here. I mean, because at the end of the day, we all love football, we all love sports, and so certainly we just want to see the game continue to improve for the better. And so, but appreciate you guys so much for tuning in, and see you guys next time.